Here we go, guys. Welcome to the show, Global Transformation. Welcome, global audiences. Welcome, our guests and my co-hosts, Rod and Neetu. Welcome back. Today we have a very exciting show for everybody. We have audiences and our hosts all over the world. We got Dubai, we got Boston, we got India, we got obviously Singapore. So let's get right into it. Say hello to Rod and Neetu. Rod, Neetu, hello.
Hello there.
Hi. Great to be back on the show again.
Thank you. Well, yes, it's our second show, and we are making progress. We now have additional international guests. And let's start with Nylene. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing great. Thank you for being here. And also, Aditya, thank you. I know you in Dubai on a business trip. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thank you for having me here.
Well, we're going to start very quickly. Nylene, I know you have you and I spoke Saturday, and I know you have a great history and background. So we want to start with you. Just give us a quick rundown about your accomplishment, what you have done in your life, and what are you going to do now, or what you're doing now, we will be discussing in great detail. So please go ahead.
So my life is really in a few parts. Till 2007, I was in corporate life. I was probably one of the earliest Indian-born CEOs of a Fortune 500 company. I was based in Cincinnati. And one fine day, I thought I was following my passion and came back to India and started an entertainment company and started making movies. I went completely bankrupt in a couple of years. Thankfully, I had also started something that was in my area of expertise. I co-founded an HR BPO company across Asia, which was highly successful and had an IPO. So I kind of saw the deep depth of despair of entrepreneurship and wild success. Along the way, I have written a few books and on midlife crisis, how to build a global career from third world countries, how to get funding for your companies, how to deal with strategy. All of them became bestsellers, and I became a life coach. So I now sit on the boards of various large corporations. I coach celebrities, sports people, CEOs on a one-to-one basis on how to do more from a mental side of it. Basically, the philosophy being if you fix yourself, the world will fix itself. So I travel across the world now, helping companies, individuals to scale up in some form or the other. And often it is to do with family or money. And raising money is part of that exercise as well.
Thank you. Fascinating, Nylene. And I know I want my friend Rod and Neetu to hear what you told me Saturday when people asking you about raising money. What do you answer to them?
I tell them you won't get it. It's not a birthright. There is the frenzy across the world of startups. And in the countries that I'm going to talk about today, China, India, and Indonesia, often it is by compulsion, not choice, because the governments can't provide jobs anymore. They believe they have a huge demographic dividend, and they keep pushing people into entrepreneurship who don't have the skills. And sometimes the adversity leads to a spark of genius, and something comes out of it. Often it leads to a demographic nightmare where 90% fail, and then they blame the government. So it's a double-edged sword. People are walking this path, and the young don't understand really how it works. They read just headlines about the billions of dollars and the Ubers and the Amazons, and get carried away. They start and money will roll in. And we know even
And
in
the
a
reality
mature
is very
market,
different.
even in a mature market like America, 95% of early stage startups, early stage means you have a track record or you don't have the patent or something like that, is funded by self and family.
Yep.
People don't get it. There is a disconnect.
Thank you. Well, Rod, I told you, I know you already brain is tweaking because I know you and Nylene will find a very interesting conversation. But let's get quickly, Nylene, thank you so much. And we're obviously going to have many questions to you in a second. But let's get Aditya in Dubai. Give us an introduction. I know you're not originally from Dubai, but tell us please about yourself, what you're doing in Dubai, and where you're from, and more or less your background in a couple minutes, if you can, please.
Thanks. I'm the CEO of Caliber Americas, and we're a Canadian company. that is in EdTech space. Previously, we were involved, or we still are involved, in writing textbooks, K-12 core textbooks, along with the publishers. However, over the past 4 years, we've been working on something called STEAmathlon, and now we have launched that not only in India, in UAE, but also in Indonesia this past week. And essentially, what STEAmathlon is, it's something like a triathlon, wherein it introduces learners or youth to future technologies, but also helps them promote well-being as well as digital citizenship. The whole idea behind a STEAmathlon is that not everybody would be great at technology, and all the technology outreach and initiatives, be it robotics competition or STEAM competition or STEM competitions, they're targeting learners or individuals that are intrinsically inclined or motivated to pursue technology as their passion or their choice of career. And so what STEAmathlon really does is that it's a bit of a more mass. It has a mass appeal wherein through design, make, code, engage, and celebrate, you could be a public relations. You could have a public relations role in your team. You could have a marketing role. You could have a research role. You could have a tech role. So essentially, we give students challenges in the field of aviation, space, sustainability, wearable technology, and we integrate it with the core curriculum so that it can be included as part of your curriculum and not as an after school activity, leading to future skills or 21st century skills, as well as mindfulness and safe digital citizenship and social media use. We are in Dubai right now. We're working closely with the private schools in Dubai to roll out a STEAmathlon over here. And that's the reason why I'm here.
Well, thank you. It's fascinating because I spent a great deal of my career working with kids on the different areas, but very much appreciate you being on the show. I think you're going to be our main subject today, and we're going to be drilling you down, especially my friends in Boston and Singapore, and myself included. And something like what you're doing is definitely would be a huge benefit to Ukraine, where I'm in right now. But let's come back to Neetu. Neetu, why don't you get going with Nylene with questions? Rod, please jump in. Let's open it up.
No, in fact, I have a question for Aditya because I've been in education for a while, and my question to him is that you do have all the programs and everything. How easy is it for you to penetrate into the education system? Because their curriculum today is so tight and so competitive because it's all about the number game, as well as, I mean, not IB, but otherwise. How is it easy to penetrate and take your program to the schools?
On the outset, it does appear challenging, and obviously people are resistant to change, and that's especially true when it comes to education, because you would like to reduce the learning disruptions in the classroom, and as well as educators only have so many hours in a day to do what they do, and do it quite well. However, once we start talking to the senior management, or once we start engaging governments on a policy level, they quickly realize that there are enough pockets, or there's enough a number of periods every week wherein if one was to proceed in a cohesive and a coordinated fashion, addressing the STEAM, well-being, inclusion, as well as social media and digital citizenship, it's entirely possible. Because think back to when you guys were in the school, or when your kids were in the school, the English teacher was doing her own set of projects, the math teacher was doing their own set of activities and projects, as well as the science teacher was doing the same, and the computing was completely disconnected with the rest of the curriculum, and they were operating in parallel with what the other teachers were doing. So when it comes to Caliber, especially STEAmathlon, what it does is, in a very organic fashion, you are able to promote cross-curricular links and at the same time you're able to seamlessly enter into the core curriculum and achieve the STEAM goals that you're trying to achieve.
You know,
So
it's
basically,
interesting that
said
you
that,
speak about. Go ahead, Nito.
sorry, Rod, go for it.
guys, don't
It's
fight. I'm going to run the show. Rod, go ahead. Jacob, hello.
Thanks,
We'll get back to you in a second.
yes. No, it's interesting that you talk about that you're pitching governments and not higher educational institutions. You know, we're involved with my group on several education deals, everything from universities adding on their curriculum to even youth hostels around the world, bringing in and trying to set up colleges and youth hostels, which I think is a very interesting idea. But the scalability of universities, especially by laureate universities, which I was affiliated with, where we went from 0 to 800,000 students in 75 universities and 40 countries. I mean, it's a great marketplace to be in. And if you latch onto the right people and you get the government endorsement, I think your company really could fly, because it sounds like you have a really nice niche of something that's not being covered right now. It's a little vapor on it, but because it's really not concrete, but it's something that I don't think is being broadly addressed in the educational sector.
Right. Well, Rod is,
No,
guys,
I-
Rod is being shy is because he also early in his life been involved with Sullivan Learning, which was one of the largest educational franchises in the United States. But let me welcome Jacob, and Aditya will come back. Jacob, hello.
Hi. Sorry,
Hi.
I logged in a bit late. I had some difficulties in logging in just now, but I think I got
It's
it
okay.
now.
It's only $10,000 will be paid to Nitu, the luxury account as we call it. So, but welcome to the show. We'll get back to you in a second. But Rod, I'd like to
Sure.
actually start the conversation now with Nylene, because Nylene, I'd like you to spend a couple minutes explaining to all of us what you had explained to me last time we talked about the data system you have developed, a software that actually evaluating an opportunity. And I'd like to get as detailed as you want into that, because obviously all the people, including our startups that are joining us today, as well as Rod and myself and Nitu, would love to start understanding the revolutionary approach that you took to evaluating opportunities and teams behind them.
Okay. So basically, this idea struck us when when I was speaking at the startup events. I realized investors don't come to these events because they get surrounded by people who just have an idea, and they just want selfies with them. They have no real way of identifying the real quality of the idea and how it is benchmarked to the others on the table. Everything virtually works on networking. Now, there is a place for intuition and networking, but that exists even when you hire people, right? But we still have psychometric tests to understand the potential of a person, the strengths, weaknesses, etc. Why not one for startups? Why can we not have an objective way to evaluate a company's potential and benchmark it or compare it as a percentile to its nearest peer group? So we developed a tool. It's a patented algorithmic tool that basically studies the company across 1,300 data points and gives quantitative scores across the 11 sectors. The potential of the idea, risk, exit strategy, is there the product, the team, and benchmarks them as a percentile to the nearest peer group. The experts who do this report also provide a qualitative each of the criteria and end the report with what are the strengths of the company, what are the areas they need to work on, and what should be the strategy if they want to raise funds. Where should they go and how? That helps at least clear up 80% of the work of an investment banker, VC, or an angel investor, and helps the entrepreneur understand as well, so that the conversation they hold after that is really a value add. They can actually talk about, do I want to do this? And if yes, how? Versus walking into the room and saying, okay, here you are, now introduce yourself.
Right.
This tool has been popular across the banks, the VCs, etc., using them. we use it ourselves when we do the India Fund Fest, which is a distraction-free fund fest. It's like a mega Shark Tank. No sponsors, no speeches, no panel discussions. Come, pitch, get funded, move out. And each one of the companies that pitch is backed by a report like this. We had a similar fund fest in Indonesia last week, where I actually met Neetu and Jacob and Aditya. And we selected 19 startups out of 2,800 who applied. In India, in the last 2 years, 17,000 startups have applied, and we selected 42 in the first year and 34 this year. What it does is the funding conversations gets accelerated. In the first 90 days, 80 to 90% of the companies who pitch in such places get funded. So it's basically an accelerated funding program. The entrepreneurs know where they stand. The investors walk into the room knowing exactly what the company does and where the company stands. That's what the group is about. It's called Investor Readiness Report.
Nalin, fascinating. Rod, I know your mind is already tweaking, and we're going to come back to our entrepreneurs. But Rod, why don't you start off with questions? Because I know in your head, I know you long enough.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. I haven't, I'm involved in a number of different groups where we vet painfully through each deal all the time. And your deal sounds great, where you just can quantitatively box them in and out, show them their strengths and weaknesses. I think it would be a fantastic tool in the States. And I'm not aware
Well,
of
Ukraine
any-
comes first, Rod. Ukraine comes first.
There we go. There we go. And but no, it sounds awesome and really interesting. I'd love to learn more about it. And to me, you just could cut your workload in half for people like myself if you could just to the right and to the left before the game starts, and we could save an enormous amount of time. So I'm very interested to learn more. It sounds
Nalin,
fascinating.
I got a question for you. Nalin, do you think this system can approach existing operations as well, not just startups?
So this report we use for anybody who wants to get their company checked. It could be an SME, it could be a large company. There is also a version of the report where VCs come to us and say, "Can you check the company I've already invested in?" And there is a mature version of the report that we bring out that tells them that after the initial funding, are they on track for the next round or have they messed up?
Excellent.
So the report for any kind of company at any maturity level, and we have found that it works pretty well. Basically, if a company doesn't hit 85 percentile, it's not fundable. So
Okay.
VCs come to us and say, "Nalin, I want to invest in fintech in India. Send me 20 companies," and I send them 20 reports. It's so much easier than them trying to hunt for them.
Wow. This is a game changer, Rod, isn't it, for a PE level investment banking service, period. Venture capital across the board.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
God knows how many people, and you were talking about the huge number of startups in India. I'm sure I don't know what the national numbers are here, but it sounds awesome. I mean, the perception of businesses from India coming to the United States and Indian leadership in the United States corporations has really drastically changed in the last 2 operating years. Before, Indians were thought of, in the general thinking as thought leaders, technicians, but now they're so deeply ingrained in all aspects of businesses in the United States. I think it would be a very welcome addition, and it would roll right into the American infrastructure.
Nalin, last questions for you, then we're going to move to Jacob. Neetu, did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question for Nalin, and this is basically just an intrigue question as to, working in India is very, very different. Working in the US is very different. But I've known him where he's had huge successes with Indonesia, right?
Okay.
Now, what were the challenges? What were how did you penetrate and how have you got so much of traction with a market like Indonesia? Where, even understanding how to get funded is a challenge. You and I both know it.
Yeah, so I have spent the better part of the last 14 months in Indonesia. I've been going there for more than a decade. The first thing that hit me was lack of data. The only data that was available in the startup ecosystem was either on tech, and in that only fintech. and the country gets 70% of its GDP from a single city, Jakarta, whereas it is spread over 17,000 islands. I traveled across Indonesia under a government program called Bakraf, which is their startup initiative to promote startups on the creative side. They asked me to do financial literacy workshops across the country. Remember, this is a country where only 29% of the population of 270 million people has a bank account. So financial literacy is really an alien word. I traveled across, met more than 3,000 entrepreneurs, and brought out a research report on the startup ecosystem of Indonesia, and I compared it to India. The results are fascinating. The results showed that India is exactly where India was 10 years ago. But with the help of digital and technology, they can actually leapfrog that and get
Yes.
to where India is. But they have two big drawbacks. One is the huge skill deficit, especially on the financial side of it. And the second is language. Because I know investors don't invest in companies that founders don't speak the language. So right now, we have a class system exactly where India was. We have some really classy startups like Jacobs, which are founded by global citizens who have gone back to their home country and set up these fantastic companies. And then you have a mass of startups where India was, and Rod alluded to that. That now in the last 2 years we're seeing companies come because they go through the same life cycle. You start with a large mass in culinary and clothing and services, and slowly they move up the value chain into products, and that's when you start hearing about them, and the serious VCs take note. India has got there, China has got there, Indonesia will definitely get there. So the real challenge was of language, the maturity level of the startups, financial literacy. But there is a mass of about, I would say 300, 400 startups there, which are really worth funding and are fundable. That mass in India would be somewhere around the 6 to 8,000, and that mass in the US is around the 20,000 mark at any given point in time.
Thank you. Eileen, my
I
last
think when you
question to you
said,
before we move
Nalin,
to
that
Jacob.
there are only an X amount of people who have bank accounts and stuff, I think this would be a pretty opportune moment to introduce Jacob, because he's got a product to address that. So I think
Ab-
this would be a pretty appropriate moment to introduce Jacob into the conversation.
Yes, absolutely. Need to thank you, Jacob. I got only one quick question for Eileen before we get to you, I promise. And I know Nito's already getting mad at me,
Sure.
so I have to be quick. So, Eileen, my question
Never
to you,
mind.
Sure.
Eileen, my question to you is, how do you, if I wanted to be in Ukraine, Rod wants it to be in America, your system, how can we get a hold of it? Is there a licensing system? Are you promoting it as a pro bono? How are you expanding it out to the world what you had created?
The first 2 years we tested it on ourselves. That 17,000 companies we did ourselves, fine tuned it, and now we have launched it as a website. And people, VCs, etc., buy bundled packages. That I'll buy 20 reports a year minimum. There's a tiered system. From you can plug in any company, and within the 3 days time, we will give you the report from that company. The time gets extended if the company is giving us the data, but we basically take 3 days to turn around a company and give you the report.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, Jacob, your turn. Thank you again for joining us. First and foremost, tell
Thank
us.
you. Thank you for having
I,
me.
sure, I see the smile, I see the positive energy. So first, start talking about who you are, where you are now, and then get into your company.
Right. When you mean who I am, just my personal experience, or like
Yes,
my personal
yes.
background, or
Personal background,
okay.
experience,
So
whatever you want to talk about. It's an open show.
So Jacob,
okay.
I know today I'm interrupting myself a lot, but I'll make it
Yes.
simpler for you. So just a bit of a background, Henry, that we were recently together at the Habibi Festival, which Rod told me to,
Right.
he gave me homework and he said, next talk we have, you better tell us what you're going to be doing, right? So we recently together at the Habibi Festival, an annual event that was held in Jakarta, Indonesia, a platform for innovations and startups, and Nalin played a very strong role there. And later, we had both Aditya and Jacob were the winners of the most promising, and that is why Nalin, with both of them, is today here at the panel to showcase his work through both the companies and showcasing them. And does it make it simpler for you, Jacob, to say what you're doing?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, production. So basically, just to give you a little bit of background, like I agree. I mean, like what Alan was saying. Yes, as a global citizen before, I was born in Germany. I spent most of my life outside of Indonesia. I finished my education in Australia. And I came back to Indonesia in 2000, and actually I saw, because there's a lot of opportunities in Indonesia. Like agree with Nalin again, like most Indonesian here, maybe they lack certain knowledge and certain professionalism, maybe may I say, to realize certain like their projects or startups. So from that, like I had experience working as well when I was in Sydney. So when I came back, basically the challenge was for me to maybe educate the people here how to basically be more disciplined, more professional in the work that they're doing. So passion may not be enough. So coming from also in our family previously owning a bank, we went into this currently financial technology. So this is the financial
Fintech,
technology.
yes.
Our company is called fintech. Yes, fintech. So that's the fintech that we basically were in the FundFest for. That we were basically chosen out of I believe few hundred companies, and then we were the 5 finalists. And based on our product and maybe based on our company background and the team that we have, we were able to basically become the 5 finalists.
Great. So tell about your business. What do you do?
About the fintech?
Yes, about exactly. Walk me through the
Okay.
transaction. Walk me through the peer-to-peer. Walk me through everything I read a little bit online and need to tell me about.
Okay, so basically, our fintech is basically what we do is in 2016, basically the Indonesian government came up with a policy to encourage cashless transaction. However, they never gave the tool. So the only tool that people knew, maybe around the world, what they knew before fintech is using an electronic data capture machine, which is like
Yep.
basically a machine that you swipe
Credit cards.
your
Yes.
credit card or your debit card on. So most people in Indonesia, most people and most small to medium companies, they are not able to get this EDC because of minimum transactions, and they have to have certain criteria, terms and conditions they weren't able to fulfill. So our company basically thought of the solution: how do we use something that's already in their hand and turn that into like a digital EDC? So we were able to do that through technology, through IT. We were able to turn their smartphone into a digital EDC. So now they're able to receive credit cards and debit cards via their smartphone using QR code.
So instead of, understand correctly, so instead of you having a plastic, I'm getting a credit card into my phone, actual credit card. Is that correct?
Yeah, so basically you just need to register your credit. You have the credit card number,
Yeah.
and then you gotta just register it into that application. And once you register that application, your phone, your credit card obviously has to be registered with the bank with your
Sure, of
with your
course.
phone number, because we will have to send the bank itself will send a one-time password to your registered phone, and using
Yes.
that password only again can the transaction go through. Yeah.
So this is because interesting you said this. I'm in Ukraine now, Jacob, in Kiev, and I'm
Okay.
a member of a private bank. It's a government-owned bank now. Used to be private, but one of the most tech advanced. And recently they just accepted a deal with Apple Pay. So I'm now
Right.
don't use my credit cards. I use Apple Pay through my phone to pay for all of the services that I want to acquire. Only those actually that accept the
Yes.
So I understand that your business is very similar to that, correct?
Correct. Yes, ours is similar to that. However, maybe in Indonesia the situation is a little bit different. I heard Nalin mention earlier. So basically, the banks have been around for numbers of years, 60 years. However, until now, there was a study made by the Central Bank of Indonesia that only around 14 people have actually bank accounts
Right.
out of 265. So that's a very small figure. And the banks have been struggling and struggling. Like I'm previously owning a bank as well. We've been struggling to make people
Reach people.
open an account at us. I don't. There are many reasons.
Okay.
So
Thank you, Rod. Let's open it up.
Hey, certainly I would open up an account because I really like your shirt. You have a
Oh,
great
thank you very
shirt.
much. Yeah. Thank
Could you send
thank
me
you.
one of those? I'd get arrested here if I wore that.
So
That's
So
it's an Indonesian
so I know
batik,
you're a
they
man
call
of.
it.
I know you're a
Yes.
man of style, which is great. And
Thank you.
I think
Thank you.
Nitu was really on the money here by bringing you on the show, because I think what
Oh,
you're
thank you.
talking about and doing is, leap years ahead of what's happening here in the States. And I'd like to learn more about that as well. Usually, Nilan and I, we see so many deals that it's like, but both of these deals, the education and the fintech sound fascinating to me. And I'd like to learn more, and I'm sure a lot of people would.
well, yeah. Thank you,
Well, thank
Rod.
you.
So
Thank you.
we know that next week you're gonna be in Israel, and obviously we hope that we're gonna give you a home assignment now. That we want to have a couple startups out of Israel, which is a mecca now for the startup ecosystem. But Nilan, you wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, so it's important to understand what these two companies are. Typically, the best valuations and patient capital is saved for companies that change human behavior some way. Jacobs company, the way
We're missing.
diverse countries.
No, we can't hear you, Nalin.
There's a background noise.
Yeah, I hear
But
that.
okay, try to speak up again because let's see if the noise subsides. I'll come back to you, Nilan. So because there's a background, it's over now. Go ahead, continue, please.
So basically, these two companies that are on the show tonight are basically changing human behavior. If you take Jacobs company in a country with 7,000 29% financial penetration, he's changing the way people transact, or the way people have transacted for centuries. And if you see his company from February to August, September, his company has grown exponentially. On the other hand, you have an established company like Aditya's Caliber, which is changing the way people learn. Our school textbooks and curriculums have been decades old, but in today's world, they are generations old. In the digital world,
Correct.
they're generations old. What Caliber is doing, it is changing the way children are experiencing what they will experience in the real world. It is very interesting, teaching IoT, artificial intelligence, and things like that to children from grade 2 versus telling them, making them, mug up and remember things from 300 years ago. So these two companies are basically set up by global citizens with huge experience. They are bringing solutions that are making a transformation at their local populations. At the same time, the solution is exportable across the globe.
Excellent. Well, let's come back to Thank you, Neil. I am a huge believer that everything in life is psychology, and my personal belief is, and I spend a great deal, as Rod knows, in education of my career. I teach my kids because, as what Aditya, you're doing, is you're teaching kids how to process the information early on in their lives, and you're teaching them how to adapt. Am I correct in stating that?
So an easy way to showcase what STEAMathlon's about is to actually talk about an example. So we have a STEAMathlon called #HappyPlant, and that STEAMathlon is geared towards children that are in grade 4 or year 4. Essentially, it's a way for them to learn about photosynthesis, Bernoulli's principle, Archimedes' principle, IoT, and AI. So the challenge that we give to the kids is that you must select a plant, and it could be any plant in the world, and then we give them an IoT kit. So they hook up in the IoT kit is your temperature sensor, moisture sensor, and light sensor, and also we give them a water motor that they can control through the internet. Then the challenge that we give to them, and this is something that we did in partnership with the Prime Minister's office in the UAE as part of their Innovation Month a couple of years ago, was that the plants were supposed to be the happiness ambassadors of Dubai. Essentially, the kids using chatbot would program or would code queries or replies to queries. So, for example, hey, what's your name? So the winning plant was a parsley plant called Elvis Parsley. And Elvis Parsley was a daredevil, and it knew about all the extreme sports attractions in Dubai. So this was a different way of promoting English, promoting arts. Exactly, promoting critical thinking. Not only that, we also had a scoreboard, and essentially, the more people would talk to the plant, the higher number of points you would get. So in a short period of 2 weeks, we had about 10,000 people from 70 countries chat with 44 plants. So essentially what we did was, instead of a school project just being confined to the walls of a classroom, using IoT, we opened it up, and now anyone who has an invite to be able to talk to the plant or to be able to interact with the school project, they're able to do that. So effectively, what we're doing is for kids as young as in grade 4 or even grade 2. We in Finland we started off in grade 1 because their education system allows us to do that. So what we're doing is we're asking them to pair up as you would in a startup or in the future where there'll be a lot of freelancers, and you wouldn't be part of a core team, you'd be part of many teams. And then we give you challenges in the field of space, aviation, sustainability, so that not only can you learn about the core curriculum, you also know how to work in the team. You're able to find what you're good at, because not everyone's good at curriculum.
Aditya, hold on one second. I got a question. Am I understanding correctly that you can have a game where kids in Ukraine, in Dubai, in America, in Indonesia can actually use the same plant or the same kit to do the same thing and then share their own experiences depending on geographic example, for example, just how the plant grows?
So it's not a sure. So it's not a game. It's actually a real plant, and it's an IoT.
Yeah, I understand that.
They have made, so you're right. You're right in saying that in Finland, what we noticed was that a child who was suffering from dyslexia or was able to freely express themselves through the plant. And also because of the ease of use of the visual coding tool and the AI tool that we provided them, we also saw that it was very inclusive. We had 50% male and 50% female students participate. And so effectively what you can do now is, if you're in Indonesia, if you're in Canada, if you're in Ukraine, your plants or your IoT projects can talk to each other. So currently our platform has a capability at any given point in time to have 40 million such IoT projects talking to each other or interacting with each other. So this is promoting.
Do you mind if I jump in a little bit?
Innovation.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
It's great to hear all this, but let's have some fun and talk about money. Let's talk about your valuation of the business, your expansion plan. If you've had money in, what are you looking to do, and how can the international community help you build a truly large international company quickly?
Sure. Our business model is working with channel partners or local partners in their respective jurisdiction. We wish to focus on product development and the content and curriculum, and also managing the events. And when it comes to sales or reaching out to local schools, we'd like to support the local partners in those respective countries to reach out to those schools.
Are you seeking funding at all?
Very soon, yeah. We'd be doing that very soon. We have a number in mind in terms of number of users, as well as number of countries that we'd like to be in before we open our doors up for funding, because we feel we're onto something very, very big, and we'd like to get a few numbers in before we start looking for funding.
Okay, great. So your revenues are So you're not really revenue driven right now. You're more ideologically driven and just getting it out there. And you're sort of in a
Oh
pre-funding
no,
stage where.
last year we were more. It was more a proof of concept, or also actually a couple of years ago it was more proof of concept. But since then we are now being used in the major school chains in UAE or India. So this year we're all about monetizing and all about growing in jurisdictions that we're comfortable in or we have existing partnerships in. And pretty soon, in the next 4 to 6 months, we would start seeking newer markets and newer, channel partners. And that is when we would.
Well,
be
Ukraine is
looking
going to be
at-
one of them. I can tell you that. So,
Hey, Milan,
but-
when can we use your magic on these guys?
yes, I need to get some education too. I want to grow a plant with Nitu in Singapore together.
Well, guys, it's not just a plant in Indonesia. We also showcased an autonomous ship. Autonomous shipping is a huge deal of the future, and it's not only about making an artificially intelligent ship, but it's also grappling with
Can I
the
ask-
issues of sustainability
Can I ask
or
you a question?
liability and logistics. Yep.
I think in the United States, how about cannabis? Any of the kids picking the cannabis plant? Everyone's smoking weed here.
Well, I mean,
That's funny.
yeah, we're. Yeah, it's,
Look at
uh,
smile
it's-
Jacob has when you talk about cannabis. We're gonna send him some from Colorado. So
Well, it's kind
Okay.
of like the prime directive of Star Trek. We don't comment on what the local folks do. We just provide them with tools and fairly understand what to do with it.
good answer, Aditya. All right, so but I got a real question. So obviously for kids, it's critical in today's day and age, and I did this with my kids, is financial literacy. And Aline talked about it, lack of financial literacy in Indonesia. Same problem exists in Ukraine. So Jacob, is there an opportunity for you to partner with Aditya to incorporate your financial instruments into his program so his kids around the world can learn how to use and manage the money? Is there opportunity there between two of you? Jacob?
I'm always open for collaboration, and it's always good that maybe I can exchange ideas. So we can always learn something new. But basically, yeah, the tool is there that we can use to teach, because this is actually like what we are doing here in Indonesia is one step before some people become a bank account holder. Maybe they feel intimidated or they feel afraid of the bank being owning a bank account, but it's one step before that. So it's actually teaching them, it's actually how to transact, and it's similar to a bank account, but it's not a bank account yet. But
yeah,
it's getting
but
them
Jacob,
familiarized with.
I think about it in a little different terms. I think about a teenager, 14-year-old, right? So he needs to learn
Right.
not only just how to open the bank account, but those kids in Indonesia can be your
Yes.
a gateway into the parents opening the accounts, because the parents would be scared and the kids would not be scared of the technology. And I think that with
Correct.
Aditya, the education collaboration around the world is something critically exciting, because kids can share the experience of mistakes they make or obviously gains they make in whatever investment they can potentially make, because we can teach kids how to invest as well. And it's up to this point that I taught a lot of those type of programs. There's a very limited opportunity to teach, to get to the kids. Using the mobiles allows us to get to them very quickly. And if Aditya can
Correct.
create a gamification of sort where kids can earn some kind of points or, I don't know, cryptocurrency of sort, whatever, in order to benefit from transacting online in real economy. And by the way, I also think in the countries like Ukraine, where shadow economy is a big component, it also allows us to bring out the shadow economy into the open, the cash society that exists today in the countries like developing countries. This is a way of getting next generation to forget about shadow economy, not even to learn it, not even to enter it. What do you guys think? Rod, Nitu, Nailin?
May I quickly chime in? So we do actually have a STEAM-athlon. We're in grade 5. We give a challenge to the learners that they must own their own private bank. So they must launch their private bank, and they must get deposits
Brilliant.
from their parents, from visitors, and they must manage their cash reserve ratio. They must manage their interest rate, and at the end of the year, their bank should be profitable as well. So that's one way. And the second way is any of these projects that these students do, they require micro sponsorships, be it from companies out there or their relatives or teachers. So we've seen students come up with their own merchandise. We've seen them take sponsorship proposals to the company, because these companies have large CSR funds available. And
Sure.
through our platform, what we're doing is that instead of essentially donating a large sum of monies to a single program, they could then, much like you do in microfinancing, you could do micro CSR, wherein the individual school team could get $100 or $200, and that will mean more to them than perhaps and also for each individual team that is there, the eyeballs for the project that are generated are close to 40,000 to 50,000. So imagine if, as a company, you're sponsoring, let's say, 1,000 teams. That's a lot of eyeballs for you for
Wow.
a negligible amount of
And
CSR
this is
funds that you're allotting to the project. So these are two ways how one is directly through a project wherein you are a CEO of a private bank, and secondly is that when it comes to funding or financing or bringing your idea to life while you're addressing the challenge, you do require money. And we teach them pretty early on that sure, creativity and critical thinking and innovation is important, but money is also important to be sustainable and also to keep yourself afloat.
Aditya, I have one
Sorry,
question.
Aditya, but
Are you
just a
hiring?
very parent question.
Sorry, what?
I'm
Pardon
looking.
me?
I said I have one question before you need to ask the question. Are you hiring? I'm looking to get involved now. So great sales job.
Yeah,
So
we're always looking for intelligent partnerships and strategic alliances. We're in the values between the partners or the alliances align. Yeah, we're always open. I'm from
Thank
Canada,
you.
guys. We're very friendly and we're always open.
Right. Nita, go ahead, please.
No, it was one of the questions which is just a parent question as well, as since I've been in education, understanding students and dealing with parents. I was trying to ask Aditya, how many enemies has he made of the parents with asking him to deal with their cash, and what age do you give them their first mobile phone?
Not at all. The parents are very happy, and
I would be
honestly,
happy.
parents realize or recognize that the learners or the students are doing something that is promoting 21st century skill, that's giving them confidence, that's getting them interested in the future, and at the same time that's allowing them to find what they're passionate about. And so we haven't, and in fact the parents get really competitive along with the students, and we've seen just like in hockey, we've seen almost near fist fights breaking out at our final competitions, wherein they disagreed with the score that the judges gave. But it's all in good fun, and the schools also recognize that we are without really changing a lot in terms of the curriculum or being an encumbrance on the school system. We are in a very organic fashion bringing about change on a grassroots level and getting the students excited. We've had students who've been very excited, or who've been very active, or who've been bullies, or some with dyslexia, some with autism. And what we've seen through our projects is inclusiveness or inclusion, wherein someone who
and a
was
global one as well.
Yeah,
You're building a global
exactly.
community.
So there's no separate
And so-
program that you need to have for the students or the children of special needs. There is no special program. It's integrated into the normal program, is it?
Yeah, it's inclusive.
Well,
It's inclusive.
we do have differentiated activities within the program, for sure. I mean, that is a must, but it's one program for everybody with differentiated activities for children of determination, or as they call them in the UAE.
Okay.
It should
I'd like to get.
Countries that you found. Sorry.
No, guys, I wanted to, chiefly before we get to Rod, I want to actually get back to Nylene. And Nylene, wouldn't that be what if we can combine what Jacob and Aditya is doing? Wouldn't it be another way to identifying early on entrepreneurs and quantifying them for the future growth or whatever those kids will decide to do? Nylene?
Yeah, absolutely. But each one of the companies right now is on a path where they need to consolidate and dominate the niche that they have identified. So, Aditya, short answer to your question is yes. But Aditya and Caliber are right now on the path of forging new partnerships, capturing new markets, and reaching a certain scale before they will need money, which will be more like a Series A straight away or higher. They may be even a candidate for an IPO. Whereas for Jacob, he's been an ex-banker, and this company has grown exponentially. I would like to take Rod's question to Jacob. Jacob, how many customers do you have? What is the money you're seeking? What kind of valuations are we talking about?
So currently, from February until now, we actually grown to 40,000 users as of now. And actually
Wow.
today,
Yeah.
we just yeah, thank you. And today we actually just signed an agreement with an organization that has members of 7 million, which they will make it sort of compulsory for them to join as well, to use our system. So actually, we will have a potential of few million of users in the next 6 months or so.
How much money are you seeking?
Yes, here's the money questions.
So we were discussing and we were looking at around the 4 million mark for convertible notes for around 20%.
Okay.
How much is 4 million marks? In
So
dollars?
No,
$4 million.
around the 4 million mark. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
$4 million,
sorry.
yes.
You said mark. I thought you said marks. I thought it was a currency, some sort of. Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead, Rod.
No, so it's interesting. So, pre-money, you posting in around $8 million. And, do you have any revenues now? Or, this is the fun part for us money boys.
Well, basically, we do have some revenue now because out of every transactions that the people make, we do receive what we call it like an administration fee. And
Sure.
besides that, we actually also, through our system, they are able to purchase or pay for their everyday bill, like electricity bill or water bill, or top up their mobile phones. And out of each and every transaction of that, we are getting certain administration fee. Yes, so there we
Okay.
already have revenues. But obviously, we would like to jack that up. Obviously, this is like a numbers game. The more people using this, the bigger the revenue will be. And since we're in the early stages, like the good thing, like I'm happy that Aditya is here because like one of the biggest challenges is actually for us to educate the market because Indonesia is still developing. The people here are still, although nearly 100 million people are using smartphones now, however, they use it currently only for very
Limited amount,
simple,
limited use. Yeah.
limited use. Yeah. However, they are now starting to it because now Instagram is big here. Facebook is, everybody's doing Facebook,
But
Instagram.
Jacob,
So they're getting you. Yep.
I have a very serious question. You obviously competing
Yes.
against very big global players, from WeChat, who does everything you just described, to Apple Pay,
Yes.
to Google Pay, etc.
Yes.
So what is the competitive?
Yes,
What is the
yes.
sustainable competitive advantage that you have? I know Indonesia is your niche market, which has probably been forgotten
Yep.
by the big guys up to this point. But let's assume you can also be a potential target acquisition for those big guys as part of your exit strategy. But how you demonstrate sustainable competitive advantage on a global level?
Okay, so at the moment, I'm only looking at Indonesia, but I'm concentrating in Indonesia because we have a competitive advantage. So basically, yes, WeChat Pay has been trying to enter the Indonesian market. However, the Indonesian government is protecting the fintech market at the moment. So WeChat Pay, even until now, has not been able to market as such because they are not able to get the license.
I see. Okay, so the government protection allows you to now penetrate the market.
Hello?
But I know Rod wants to ask this question, but I'm asking for him. Did you use your pay system to buy that shirt?
Sorry, you were breaking up. I couldn't get that.
That was coming.
I said, I know Rod wants to ask that question, but I'm going to ask it for him. Did you use your pay system to buy that shirt that you wear? The shirt.
We love the shirt.
Actually, yes, I did.
You did?
So yeah, actually, I did.
I have, Henry, I have another question for him, as serious as what yours were. That every time, at the festival that I was asking him, I said, listen, how does this really work? Guess what? He'd go to somebody and say, hey, get your phone out. And he'd get out this favorite number, 10,000 rupiah. He'll give it to them, right? How many 10,000
Yes.
rupees did you, what was that, a marketing? I mean, did you have a fixed budget on it? Because I saw you doing that 10,000 to every Tom, Dick, and Harry that you met on the way, trying to teach them what the app was.
Yeah, the best way obviously is to show people how we use the app, and every time when they see how to use it, they actually always get
easy it
amazed
is.
because how easy it is and how fast it is. Because like I was able just to transfer the 10,000 rupiah, which is like not even $1, to them within like 1 second, and they're like, "How is that possible?" And yeah, it's just through technology. So they,
Well,
they
I
were
owe
all
you that
amazed.
one because I know you did that for me as well.
Yes. Well, instead of saving for the shirt.
Sorry?
So,
Right.
So, but I want to come back and I want to say it's been a great show. And one of the most exciting things that I hear, not only the convergence between the two startups, but having a senior guy like Neelan on the show is great, and the opportunity that he is creating for people like Rod and myself it's absolutely fascinating. What's important, I think, that we need to understand that both of you are attacking the global opportunities that exist and bringing people that are not part of the global economic system. It might be kids in Aditya case, and might be people in Indonesia without banking accounts, and all of that is incorporating this what we call the left out bunch around the world into the global economy. And what's fascinating about that, I was just recently in Africa, in Guinea, and they're literally carrying boxes of cash, because for me to have a lunch, it costs about 2 million francs, right, in there. And they literally, in the hotel, in Sheraton Hotel, they open the drawer and there's cases of cash, which is obviously one of the biggest problems with cash, besides its inefficiency and cost. It carries bacteria, viruses. It's the biggest transporter of viruses around the world. I don't know, I learned that about it a couple years ago, but it's fascinating fact. And I thank you, all of you. And I want to get into it. We have a couple minutes left, so I want to start with our guests and closing comments. And Jacob, you were the last to join us. You're the first to start closing comments about what the future transformation of your company will be.
Well, okay, so basically we want to become the biggest fintech in Indonesia, basically helping all the small to medium businesses to be able to grow their businesses through this financial technology system. And actually in Indonesia, there are a lot of new entrepreneurs that are actually in needs of this kind of system. So for us, it's basically just to educate them and help them to save and help them to make a point of sales, because in sales we believe if you haven't received the cash yet, the sales has not been made, and through this system they're able to close sales much easier and much faster.
Okay, thank you. Aditya.
Through Caliber and our products, we wish to correctly identify underemployment, and we would like to be the largest platform with all the portfolios of the youth, and help them identify their areas of interest early on, so that they're able to pursue their optimal worth, as in what field should they enter in, what should they learn, and where should they work, so that they are happy and that they can achieve mindfulness.
Okay, thank you. Nylene.
So they say that the key to success is timing in anything you do, whether it's sports or business. And right now, I just feel I've won the lottery of birth for the first time by being born in India. India, China, and Indonesia is half the world's population and probably the youngest.
True.
People are hungry, so passionate. If we, when you work here, the kind of stuff that's going to happen here for the next 20 years, this is where the action is. So I'm just very, very happy to be a part of this.
Well, thank you so much, Neetu.
So, Rod, you've heard both Aditya as well as Jacob. Where do you think their next markets and where do you see potential for them in which countries?
You know,
Neetu,
both
I
of
was
them
looking
are
for your closing
scalable.
comments, not questions to Rod.
Let Rod do the closing for me because
Okay,
I really
that's
wanted to
fine.
ask along.
Sure,
Okay.
that's fine.
For Neetu, her expertise and where we're really going to use her is when your companies get a little bigger and she'll brand you and roll you out worldwide. I mean, for me, it's all about the money all the time, unfortunately. I like the ideas. Everything always sounds great to me. But, you know, for me, it's quantitative analysis and how can everyone make money? And I think, you know, both of the programs sound promising. And I liked all aspects of the show today. And Neelan, you sound like a fantastic man. I want to come and work with you. You sound like you could teach me a lot. And it sounds like we'd have a great time together, you know, going through your world. The way all of you talk about.
Well, Rod,
you know,
let's plan a trip together. Let's plan a trip together to Indonesia, and
Yeah,
Neelan join us.
you know, I'm tired of the United States. Let's go over and have some fun. And
Yes,
let's make
I
some
haven't
money.
been to Indonesia. I want to buy a shirt like that, obviously.
You're
You Rod
welcome.
too,
No problem.
right? So thank you. But gentlemen and ladies, it's an absolute pleasure. It's been a great show. Obviously, Rod, you have
Thank
a
you very
very specific assignment to identify, as you gave to Neetu, and Neetu, we have to get back to Rod, while you're in Israel, to identify a couple startups that you can bring on the show, and we can dissect them as
Okay.
we did today. And
Very good.
go ahead, Rod.
I'm all set.
Good. So I want to tell you guys, it's been great. Whatever happens tomorrow, transformation is irreversible. So I thank you all, and I thank you for doing what you're doing around the globe. And I really appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much. Good luck, and we're going to be in touch and absolutely see each other in person soon. And I definitely, both of your companies, I'm looking to bring into Ukraine within a very short period of time.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day, wherever you are. Good night,
Thank
good
you.
morning. Ciao.
I need
Good
to.
night.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Rod.
Bye bye.